Cool. My name's Stephen Higashi, and I'd like to welcome everyone here. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Email Security in 2025, a practical path for hosting providers using EasyDMARC. We're at the beginning now. I think people are still coming in. We'll give it another minute or two, and we'll actually start. And if you have any initial questions, we can dive in for some things.
Are they
But
going
for
to put
now, we'll
those
wait
in
about a
Q&A
minute.
or do they put those in the Q&A if they have some questions?
They can in the chat.
All right. In the chat. All
Cool.
right. Awesome.
So give it another minute, and that's it. And then we'll begin. And thanks for joining everyone again, and also our own
In the
panel
chat.
team.
Allison says, put it in the chat. Let's get chatty. Let's have something to talk about. So we're going to see you over in CloudFest in Germany early next year, Steve, correct?
That is correct. I'll be around, definitely. I've been there for a lot, many, many years.
What's the best German food we can have over there?
Um, there's a really nice place. You've probably been there the last time. It's called Oxen. It,
Yep.
yeah, so they actually have their own livestock. That's where they get their food.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That should be
It's
fresh. Yeah.
twin brothers that own it. It's quite interesting.
Okay. We might have to meet those guys if they're around.
Oh, they will. They definitely there. I'll show you around.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, let's begin. Email delivery, that's what we're talking about today, and domain security have never been more critical or more challenging for that matter. So, phishing, spoofing, impersonation attacks continue to rise, and hosting providers must ensure that customer domains are protected and compliant. So, the focused session will show how EasyDMARC helps hosting companies strengthen email authentication, simplify DMARC adoption, and increase customer trust. Attendees will learn why DMARC, SPF, and DKIM are essential in 2025. Common implementation mistakes to avoid any issues. Best practices. Step-by-step easy DMARC walkthrough. How to roll out DMARC support to clients effectively. So today I'd like to introduce you to Mike Anderson, Global MSP Channel Manager. Mike, just raise your hand, say hello.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me, Steve.
And Hagop Kachoyan, Director of Professional Services. Hagop,
Thanks
say
for
hello.
having me, everyone.
Great. So before we begin the discussion, I'd like to say that there will be a Q&A at the end, so don't worry. But just in case you feel like you're going to forget the question, just ask it in the chat and we'll get right to it.
Allison has said, move your questions over to the Q&A. The chat was private, so move your questions to the Q&A. There is no chat, she's saying. So chat was turned off. It's disabled. No problem. Move your questions to the Q&A. We're all set.
Right on. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, I do have questions for the team. Let's start off by explaining why we're here. Why we're here and what exactly is DMARC?
Yeah, so good question. And really, what does it have to do with hosting companies, domain hosting, DNS hosters, even web hosters? It's a challenging thing. So DMARC, domain-based messaging authentication reporting conformance, domain-based, that's the key, domain. So web hosting, hosting domains, domain authentication reporting. So outbound sending email uses a domain. It now must be secured with multiple protocols, SPF and DKIM, and then a security policy on top of it. Why does it matter? Well, without that, email will now start failing, and it's already happening. Fail to deliver, it'll either go into the spam box or it will be rejected outright. Microsoft and Google have both announced a security policy needs to go to quarantine or reject for next year, or they are going to start dropping traffic that will be catastrophic for your customers. So your customers are going to immediately get their antenna up. I need DMARC, right? We have thousands of service providers, but why does this make sense for the domain hoster? Because you have a captive audience with sometimes thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of domains, right? So you're already hosting their technology, whether it's DNS, domains, or websites, right? And so this product will come right alongside of you where they can get their website, their hosting, whatever your responsibility is, and secure their domain. These two things go hand in hand. This doesn't broadside you, knock you over, and we're going to show a way that you can add this to your portfolio to make some money, avoid being that commodity. I've talked to hosters all over the world. They always say, "Hey, man, we're in this tight battle. Margins are razor thins. How can we add? How can we use your product to add more revenue and profitability and customer stickiness?" And we're gonna show you how to do that on today's conversation. That's why it matters.
Thanks, Mike. That was a really great answer, and it helped me clarify that in my mind. So let's talk about reporting for a moment. What's something about DMARC reports that hosting companies often misunderstand or overlook?
I'll start off, and then Hagop, you can probably provide some additional clarity. They think this stuff is real complex. It's tedious, right? And previously they would be right especially when it was done manually or done with some really rude DMARC platforms early on. Of course, our platform is now considered what they consider best of breed by the analyst firms and the private equity firms. It's in the name, making DMARC easy. And so there's a lot of confusion by, I just don't want to mess with it. It's tedious. And we're really going to show the hosting providers today how we're going to make this very simple for them. It's a completely self-service model for their customers where their human capital and overhead and expenditures are going to be extremely low, but your profit margins and revenues can be really high. Hagop, you probably have some more color around that.
Yeah, you covered it in a good way, Mike. So, like, the thing is that, as you mentioned already, the DMARC is for the outgoing emails from your domain name. So, like, whenever you send out emails on a daily basis, the receiving server will send back you the reports. And these reports are coming from Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, or like the Comcast and everyone in the globe. Like now 99% they actually support this reporting. But the downside is like everything comes with an XML format, which is impossible for you to read and to analyze it, especially when you send around like thousands or millions of emails on a weekly basis. Then you're gonna receive thousands and millions of reports back. Like it is humanly impossible. So yeah, Mike is gonna show how we get the hang of those data, how we make it human readable, and how we take actions upon it.
Wow, this sounds like it's quite an interesting tool. So, I'd like to ask, so we're looking a little ahead. How do you see DMARC evolving over the next few years, especially for hosting providers?
Yeah, so we envision why we're having these conversations, and we've already got a couple of a few domain hosters already on our platform going to market, and so we envision these to be side by side products, where it's best of breed across, and so there's either platform plays or best of breed plays. We envisioning those lines being blurred where we combine our play with the domain hosting play. And I see those things because it's all domain based. I see those two models collapsing together, and there's significant automation and insight that we're bringing forward where these reports used to be difficult to read. We are giving all kinds of. We're about to release some really just very sophisticated, very slick artificial intelligent reports, summaries where just a novice can really read it and go, oh, this is exactly what I need to do to fix it without adding a lot of complication. Hey, Gup, you may have some other things that you can think of.
Yeah, Mike, I actually like the fact that you mentioned it multiple times that it is domain based, and that is so important because we have so many admins that they mistake DMARC with like the gateway solutions or like some solutions that you integrate with your Microsoft 365 or like with your Google Workspace and so on. Mike mentioned it multiple times, but I'm gonna say again that DMARC is a domain-based protocol which is implemented on the DNS level, and it can enforce rules for any emails that are flowing from your domain name. Like it is not integrated with any given like a mailbox provider that you use or like an ESP or anything like that. It works on your domain level, and that's what separates DMARC from every other protocol or like the solutions that we have now.
Actually, that was was going through my head as well. The same exact thing. I didn't realize it was as granular as it was. That's actually a very important point. You know what, Mike? I just want to see what's under the hood. I don't want to ask more questions. I want to see it.
Okay. Yeah, let me take you through just a few things to show you kind of how we get our point across with what we're doing. So let me share my screen here. And I won't belabor these points. You know, it's basically why are we here? How to avoid helping the hosting provider avoid the race to the bottom. We're going to make this thing very simple. We're going to be able to grow their MRR and profitability across their entire base. This will go right along with their current offerings with very, very low and minimal disrupt. It'll give them a stronger value proposition across the board, higher revenue per unit. They're all looking for this. I hear it all the time everywhere I go. Help customers meet requirements. It's seamless integrations, and I'll talk about those in just a second. Dramatically keep your tickets down. This will not be a big support overhead cost. This is the number one thing we hear. Hey, we want to do this, but we're afraid of disruption. We have solved that issue. The disruption is low to minimal at all. We can share first and second line support very easily. We're going to give the provider the ability to stick a domain scanner in their web page. The two ways you convince people to take action, Steve, number one is tell your story, why they need it. They can Google, do I need DMARC? And millions of articles will pull up and say, yes, for in fact, you do. And this is a way to tell your story. Hey, we have the DMARC protection, and they can scan their domain. All right. So story and data are the two top ways you convince somebody. So we give a domain scanner that they can stick in their website. Why do you want to do that? Because you prompt people to take action and then prompt them to take a response. And when they click that increase score, it takes them right to the domain hoster sign up page for DMARC. And there's a bunch of other findings, but I won't belabor the point. Our platform is completely self-service for the novice, right? So, you know, you're setting up domains or you're doing web hosting, domain hosting, or DNS hosting. You know, so somebody is at least a little bit, you know, has a little bit of knowledge about technical aptitude. And so they can just follow these instructions step by step, how to add the domains, how to go through the process. We give all of these instructions up front. So when the hoster signs up their customer, they will just be, hey, here's your instructions. If you need video, some people are visual, right? We have written form with illustrations. We also have visual forms. This is key, right? Keeping that support down, giving the consumer step-by-step access to instructions on exactly how to get this thing done. So looking at the actual program itself, the demo. So what would happen is the customer would sign up, and this would be kind of a blank page. There would be whatever options the hoster chooses, and the pricing is based on, you know, what options I choose. So I've got plans starting out at $2 a domain. and going up to, wholesale pricing of about $20 a domain. Depends on how many features you want for your end user. And so this is very simple. The consumer is going to be instructed on how to go in and add a domain. Those were the instructions that I just showed you. They literally just type in their domain and click add, and the platform will give them a couple of options. Number one, we will build in the hosting providers integration right here so that once they set that up, they can just simply push a button and it'll send the settings into the hosting provider's DNS for them, right? Very simple. So we want to do these type of integrations. It can be as simple as they want or as complex. If they want just a manual setup, we're going to give you both of options or either of these options. This is where the consumer, if they have to do it manually, we don't have an integration into the hosting provider yet. They can simply just follow these instructions. They're already in the DNS or the domain console. It simply says just find this host record, add the CNAME type, copy and paste that in and save it. These are super simple instructions. And if you're already doing domain hosting or DNS hosting or web hosting, they already have consoles, they already have DNS panels. This thing just lines up with what they're doing. So they can simply just, do this, side by side. And then what the platform will do is you see once the domain is entered, it will line it up. So these are basically single domain plans, or you can we've got multi-domain plans, but it will line up the domains, and it will also give a workflow, right? So even if I'm reading the instructions, not sure what to do, we take the mystery out of it. We allow the consumer simply just to click on this workflow automation button, and it's going to give them step-by-step instructions of exactly all the steps they need to take to get their domain verified, fix their SPF records, their DKIM records, turn on some of these other buttons depending on what plan they choose, and simply, click these buttons and it will take them right to that feature. Now this domain is not verified in our platform, so the work orders, won't show correctly, but this would take them right to the work orders with the instructions on what to do, set up these records. And so when you're clicking on these things, it's taking you over to the different functions to set it up. But really, we instruct the customer to look at detailed reporting. And this is, the hosting providers wonder, well, how's my customer going to know what's good, what's bad? And so we instruct the customer not only through that workflow, but to be able to look at these compliance reports, these aggregated reports. Now, typically, the customer is getting, XML emails, like Hagup said. And unless you're Neo from the Matrix and you can turn code into a picture, those things are completely worthless, right? So what we're doing is taking that code and putting it in a picture for the consumer to be able to just come in here and see what's compliant, what is good, no further action needed on that domain, and what is not compliant. So originally it's probably going to start off not compliant, and they'll have one domain set up here. And if they have any subdomains, depends on how mature they are, they'll be able to come in here and look at their domain and look at any sending source they're using. So whether they're going to use Google or Microsoft or any provider to send their initial outbound going emails, our platform with those DNS settings will pick up the sending sources, right, and tell them what is not configured correctly. And we instruct them, this is where you need to pay attention for the alignment. But most importantly, they're going to be able to see right out of the gate what it's doing to their deliverability. And as you build your practice as a business owner, right, you're going to be adding sources, right? You're going to be adding QuickBooks, and you're going to be adding, MailChimp for marketing, and you're going to be adding, Mail Protector, and you're going to be adding, some of these things for maybe CRM systems. So these will constantly have to be updated, and the platform will let you know when you add a source. It's going to send you a notification, hey, a new source has been added. It's not configured correctly. And why does all this matter? Why are we here, right? What does it matter? Because a year and a half ago, Google, Yahoo, and AOL made a DMARC policy mandatory in the settings. Before, people would just skip this. It was designed to prevent spoofing. People didn't really adopt it. But once the mandatory policy and Microsoft joined a few months later, right? And Apple and Comcast and everybody else, Now they make a policy mandatory, but that policy of none is the only thing that they were enforcing, which means you could have these not configured correctly, but as long as you had a security policy of none, you could still send email. Now, what does all that mean? It means if this is not configured, my policy says, what do I do? Nothing, none. That's a bad idea because that allows people to spoof you and send email on your behalf and potentially rip off your customers if they catch somebody unaware. You can set a policy to quarantine, which means if these policies are not configured correctly, I will automatically quarantine it. That gives a little bit higher level of protection, but people still click on spam emails all the time and melt down the company. We've heard this and we've seen this. The policy that they're now going to be enforcing is a policy of reject, which means you have to have your security policy on reject. But before you do that, you have to have every single valid sending source configured correctly, or it's going to reject your emails. Now you can't afford that to happen if you're talking about your invoicing, your general communication, your email marketing, your CRMs. So all of this is now becoming a real business problem and a real financial problems, especially for small businesses, right? And so this goes hand in hand. I'm hosting my domain and I have to secure my domain. And so these two things will go side by side. And we're going to make it incredibly easy for the end consumer to be able to walk through this with the instructions, with the analytics, what they're looking at, and self-service. They can also see the problem. They'll know what it's costing their business. And we hear this all the time. People say, what do you use SendGrid for? And they go, well, that's our invoicing. And you look over here and you see the damage it's doing. And you're like, how's invoicing going? And they go, well, we're getting slow paid. Our invoices aren't delivering. We don't know what the issue is. Now they'll be able to see what the issue is and be able to repair it. And we take them through that entire repair process. We document the top 1,500 sending sources in the world in our platform. So all the consumer has to do is simply click on this little configuration icon. It'll tell them what the sending source is and the status of their protocols that need to be configured. You see they're not configured. They'll simply click on these status links and they will get a configuration guide link, step-by-step documentation of exactly how to generate the configuration from their source, in this case, SendGrid, and then we walk them through how to put it into the DNS settings and save it. Once they do that, their policy, their security, their security posture is going to go from non-compliant and move over to compliant, and then they will simply always just be, if they're the business owner, they know they're adding sources, they'll know what they need to add, or eventually they may have an admin take over this, and you'll be able to walk through exactly what they need. Now, the really cool thing about our platform is we also have additional documentation built in. So if the user gets confused, we will instruct them to click this little question icon. It will open up a documentation panel and tell them what they're doing, walk them through, link to the training video, journeys, best practices, detailed technical guide, again, on how to use this specific feature. Again, completely self-service, so that the user can be self-aware, self-repairing, and kind of do it DIY, do it yourself. But we provide all this for the hosting provider to then be able to sell this to their end user. And we give really, really low wholesale pricing. They can then put their margin on top of it. And when you're talking about a domain hoster that has thousands, tens of thousands, and we've talked to, hosters that have millions and tens of millions of domains, whether it's websites, DNS, or, domains, any of that. This model will come along side by side. They already have the audience, and now they can just capture that revenue and profitability with minimal disruption. Did I answer your question? Why we're here? Looked under the hood.
Thank you, Mike. Wow, that was impressive. That was a lot more than I had thought it would be. It's actually quite a nice, clean interface. Congratulations, guys. You built a great product. So, saying that, I do have some questions for Hago.
Okay.
So how can a hosting provider detect customers who are accidentally sending mail from multiple identities or subdomains without their knowledge?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. We can keep this open here. So, as Mike mentioned, like about all the aggregate reports that we receive, like Mike, he mentioned a pretty good case that the non-compliant tab is the most important one that you need to analyze because there you will be able to see all the identities that your domain is using that are sending emails and are failing the authentication checks. And we know now that so many domains so many organizations are basically segmenting their like outgoing email channels based on the subdomains. And that's the good thing about our platform that we automatically detect all these subdomains that that are being used, and we automatically parse everything in the single dashboard here. So basically, we condense every data into a single portal just to make sure that our consumers are always proactive and they are always being ahead of the game with fixing their issues and with enforcing their policies as soon as they can.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So I wrote down two more questions. I just want to get those out of the way before we hit the Q&A. And for those who have questions, start popping them in the Q&A and we'll get to them very soon. So the other two I have, the first one would be what technical signals inside the DMARC reports indicate that a separate or specific customer site is comprised or compromised or injecting unauthorized messages. Did you understand what I was trying to say? Sorry, that was a lot of
Yeah.
words.
No. It's good. It's good. Mike, can we go back to the aggregate reports while we are here?
Sure can.
Yes. So there, as you can see that under the threat unknown tab, there we can see all the hackers, all the spoofers, all the cyber criminals who are sending phishing emails on the domain behalf. So there, as you can see, like the first one, it is like the unauthorized messages are the ones that you can see that a server is being used to send out emails pretending to be you, and that server is actually blacklisted in multiple sources, and we show them like here in the portal. And then the other scopes, as Mike is showing here, like all the SPF, all the DKIM are failing. So this is when you need to feel the urge that, hey, all these spoofing attacks are being able to use my domain, and I need to go with a enforced policy, right? But before doing that, as Mike mentioned, we need to make sure that all the non-compliant sources are fixed because you don't want to lose your legitimate emails from being sent, from being sent out. So all this goes hand in hand, and you need to make sure that you are always proactive.
So it's like a deliverability doorman, we like to say, right? The mail comes up to the doorman. Everybody's been to a fancy place where there's a doorman up front. He's going to check two things. He's going to check your ID, that's your SPF. Where am I coming from? And do I match up where I'm going back to? Right? I'm a deliverability doorman. I'm the DMARC policy. I'm going to check your ID, your SPF. Second thing I'm going to check is the body, right? How you're dressed, right? So if I look at you, you got a correct ID, you dress nice. My enforcement policy says if you're not right dressed properly and you don't have the proper ID, I'm going to reject you, which means I'm not going to put you in line. I'm going to send you home. That's the policy of reject. The policy of quarantine is I can check one of those and if you don't have those, I can decide I just want to put you in line, which is actually quarantining you into spam. You can stay over there in spam. You're not going to get in. If I have a policy of none, and let's say you walk up and I'm the doorman, but you're Brad Pitt. You're dressed in flip-flops and sandals and a t-shirt. You don't have any ID, but I know you're Brad Pitt, right? you're good for business. I'm gonna let you in anyway. That's risky business, right? So the policy, you can equate it to that like in real life, right? What do I want to do if the email is not dressed correctly? I can still let you in because I'm in charge. I can stand you in line, quarantine you forever, or I can reject you and say, you go home, you're not getting in under any circumstances. So if you look at it like that, people kind of understand how what DMARC is all about.
Great. Mike, I hope I'm on the VIP list.
You'll be on, Steve. We're gonna see you soon in Germany.
Great. So, I do have one more. What full pre-enforcement audit steps should a host run to confirm DKIM key validity? Header domain alignment and sender path stability for each domain before moving to P quarantine or P reject.
Yep. Yeah, this is like basically the thing is that we showed everything here. We don't want like like the first thing that we don't want any legitimate sources be visible under the non-compliant tab. That is something that we should avoid at all cost if we want to go ahead with enforced policy like p-reject. That is the most important factor. And then we need to make sure that under the compliant tab, everything is good, like everything is green. We don't have any issues, like our legitimate sources are not blacklisted in in those lists, and so on and so on. So like once we make sure that everything is good, we need to also be proactive because as we mentioned multiple times that every organization is dynamic and we tend to use new marketing platforms or like the HR team can come up one day that hey guys we want to use a new sending platform to attract more like employees and so on and so on. And this is where the alert come into place. Like we provide all the alert mechanisms and the criteria just to make sure that you are always up to date with any changes within your organization, with any authentication protocols like SPF, DKIM, DMARC, and so on. And also, we provide additional factors as well, like with MX changes, with NS changes, that you always make sure that if something bad happens, then you are the first one who is aware about that, and you just sign up or sign in and make the changes before it drags your domain reputation down. So this is so important for everyone who is dealing with this type of admin work.
Perfect. Thank you, Hego. So for now, we're going to move to Q&A. And like I said, if you have questions, keep them coming in. There's a few already, but we could always use more. Let me know when you guys are ready.
We're ready when you are. I think this has been a good conversation, nice, informative. I hope I explained it very succinctly, and so that your users think this is easy. It is in the name, EasyDMARC.
Great. Awesome. So let me start with the first one. So how should hosting providers manage DMARC, SPF, and DKIM at scale in a multi-tenant environment with shared IPs even?
Yeah, so if they want to do the management for this for the customer, there's two models, this self-serve model that we're talking about. But if they want to move up in revenue and profitability and do what we call higher margin services, and we have service providers around the world doing that. We've got about 3,000 service providers. Typically, your smaller MSPs or email marketing firms, but they will do this for customers. So if a domain hoster would like to do a service like that, let's say they got a customer and they have, I don't know, 1,000 domains or something like that. And the customer goes, hey, can you manage this for us? You could do that. And so we do have a multi-tenant platform where we give you a single instance with every single feature that we've seen on here. We train your team on how to do this for you. And it's a little bit of an expanded version of what I showed you. They would be adding domains to the platform on behalf of the customer. aligning them on what we call groups. This would be customer names. And so they could just align all of their customers, whether they had, one domain or 100 domains, right? And you can sell higher value services where you're doing the alignment, where we instruct you on how to do all the alignment, like we just showed you, teach you how to do it, and so that you can then do it for your customer, charge higher amounts for professional services and things like that. The platform is all ready to go with multi-tenancy and completely built out for the service provider model. And so we have reporting, alerting, permissions-based access, who can see what, who can do what, open APIs. We have integrations into the top DNS hosters and even, technical security platforms like Splunk and a number of other ones that the hosting provider could use. So this platform's ready to go for an IT operator right out of the box. Part of what we're talking about today is simplifying it for a single use case or the novice who just needs to kind of manage this with their domain side by side. But if a service provider wants to offer it as a service for those higher value professional services, the platform's ready to go right out of the box.
Thank you for that. I hope that answered the question of the user. So next question we have coming in. What are the biggest blind spots? This is actually a really good question. What are the biggest blind spots hosting companies run into when interpreting DMARC aggregate reports, especially early indicators of compromise?
Hey, Gop, what do you
Yeah,
see?
this is a pretty good question. Like the blind spots from the early phase of the project is they they often like skip the importance of the non-compliant tab, where it provides every single detail of your legitimate sources that are being used and are failing. So that this is like once you avoid focusing on the non-compliant sources, then you are making so many blind spots, which will eventually hurt your further domain reputation and like lags you with enforcing your DMARC policies. So yeah, just to make sure that you are always up to date with the reports and you are always checking all the non-compliant sources, which is the most important tab that we have here.
And let me add to that. I hear all the time, I run the indirect business and have spoken to thousands of service providers in the last 3 years. And the number one thing I hear about your blind spot is they go, well, I configured DMARC on Microsoft. Aren't I already all set? And you're like, yeah, no, not close. You have to configure every single sending source that your customer is going to be using. So don't think that, oh, I already got the settings from Microsoft, I'm all set. I assure you, you're not all set. And when the enforcement policy next year goes to automatic quarantine or reject, they've already released statements. They will be dropping traffic. So now you're going to have people all over the world whose traffic is they just go down literally close to overnight. And so there's going to be this massive uptake. And we saw this a year and a half ago when they started with at least putting an enforcement policy in. Email deliverability went down. Our business skyrocketed because all the service providers said, hey, our customers are calling, their emails down, their invoices aren't delivering anymore. We're in big trouble. What do we do? So you use a platform like this to give you that visibility, command, and control of what's good, what's not good, how to fix it, and service your customer. And now another blind spot I see is you've got to think of this through a time lens also, right? When you put in your domain, it's going to start picking up your reporting sources from emails, but sometimes people do not wait long enough. They do not capture all the sources because you may have a newsletter that sends out once a quarter. So maybe you run this for 30 days, you lock it down, then your newsletter goes out 90 days later. and you reject it because it's not configured correctly. Well, it wasn't reporting at the time, so you didn't capture it, right? That's why you want to turn on your alertings. If anything fails, the platform will notify you, come in, you'll see it, you'll be able to address it, fix it, resend your newsletter and move on. Now you've captured it. So another blind spot is not running the reports long enough or thinking you can just set it in Microsoft or Google and move on. That's just not a reality these days any longer.
Well, that was a really good question. It brought to light a lot of things that I wasn't even aware of either. So thank you for that. Um, we do have a few more coming in here. Here's a question. Are there special considerations when outbound mail comes from multiple geographic regions or data centers under the same domain?
I can answer that. So basically, now the thing is with multiple geographic regions or data centers are not that important, like from the receiving side. Google and Microsoft, for example, they are putting much and much emphasis on your domain reputation itself and not the IP reputation, which is like where it shows the geographical regions, like from those IP addresses. So like for me to answer that question, now it is more important to make sure that your domain is properly segmented by subdomains rather than having multiple IPs from different locations. You don't need to worry about that as much as you can. But like we also provide all that visibility here in the dashboard as Mike is sharing. Like you can see that we also provide distributional reports that you can observe that hey, my compliant sources are coming from US and the non-compliant sources are coming from I don't know, like some EU server that you have in the European region, and your threat unknowns are all coming from China and from everywhere else. And this is a good indicator for you to be always up to date.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer. That was actually really good. Um, I think we have one or two more coming in here. Here's one. So with AI generated phishing becoming more common, where does DMARC remain strong and where are the current gaps?
Hey, Gup, you want to take a shot at that? So I'll
Yeah,
start. Let me start off and then Gup can take it.
yeah,
First and foremost, if you have your compliance done, right? You have all of your legitimate sources off of non-compliant, moved over to compliant. Then you have your DMARC policy set to reject. Nobody will be able to impersonate your domain, your actual domain, and send emails on your behalf. Now, having said that, we have all these lookalikes and we have all this social engineering with AI, and Hagop can probably explain some of that. Now they have voice impersonations. If they get a copy of your voice and you're in charge, right? They can create a fake voice call where they instruct you to do something. That's social engineering. That's not anything we handle, but the actual physical component can be locked down so that no one can use your domain, no matter what the AI is doing out there. It's not like it can, this is a door that's locked. It doesn't have the key to unlock it, but AI has intelligence to fool you with messaging or, some type of video or voice interaction. That's what we see on the landscape of threats. Social engineering using AI to fool somebody to make the wrong decision.
yep, that's a great point, Mike. And also, like, I realized that on like until now we were speaking about domains that are actively sending out emails, but when it comes to the real world, like we often work with consumers like who got who like purchased all the lookalike domains that can look similar to their actual organization. domain. And what we can do from our side, like we have the sending and part domain differentiation in our platform. And if you have any domain that like you just purchased and you are not actively sending emails from it, you can add it in your whole portal and you can check the status that it is parked, and we provide you with all the required DMARC, SPF, and DKIM policies that you need to add in your DNS.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So if I have bank.com, I might buy bunk.com, bink.com, Cyrillic bank.a.com, .net, all of those, anything that looks like my domain, put it in this platform, lock it down so that they can't use a lookalike domain, and lookalike, you can buy, domains as we've seen, super cheap. And the more important you get, probably the more domains you want to buy that look close to your domain. Lock all of those down in our platform so the lookalike spoofing doesn't work.
Wonderful way of organizing things.
Yeah.
We do have another question coming in, which is a little bit different. So we're not under the hood anymore. There's a lot of high level questions that people need to know. So how does the platform integrate into hosting control panels like cPanel? This is a really great question. So
Yeah.
instructions can be automatically applied to hosting domain DNS zones. So that's just, how does
Yeah.
that?
So we have open APIs, already built into the platform that can integrate into any panel. Now, we were asked 2 years ago at CloudFest in Germany, hey, can you go into cPanel? We weren't ready for those conversations. We're already past that point now. We're more than ready. We have all the APIs built. All this automation is ready to go. We simply have to just create those type of conversations with cPanel and those kind of things. And we're actively working on that. It's not like we don't have that, as a goal in mind. But if somebody wanted to know how I could pull all this stuff in, just like I showed you when you add a domain to our platform under our grouping, when you click that add domain button and you type in a domain, you can see I already have integrations into multiple DNS providers so that you can already set it up to just push a button and send the settings into the DNS once you set that up. So we have these integrations for. Now, if we do this with a domain registrar or a registrar, we'll be happy to set you up in this also so your users could just do a one button push and send their settings into the DNS. We're already doing it for for our top partners now. So I'd be happy to entertain all of that as we move along in conversations.
Great. Thank you for that as well. Um, I'd like to learn more about that after too. So next, what we have is basically we're at the end. There are no more questions that have come in. However, I do actually have a question. So I put my hosting hat on, and I'm thinking, okay, great. I know what you do. I know what problems you can solve. But here's the thing: if I'm a hosting company, I buy licensed software to some software or something else that I already know how to use, great. I'll throw money at it, I'll get it. But if there's a solution like this that I don't understand exactly what's going on, I mean, like I get it, but I need to know how to use it, and that I'm thinking, oh, that might be a problem. I remember, Hagop, you were telling me about your support, and I think this really needs to be said. How does support work?
Yep. So like our support, we have like 24/7. Like all the guys are handling all the tickets. Like because like when it comes to the support portion, like as Mike mentioned multiple times, that we try to tackle from two portions, like the self-serve, which is pretty robust in our like in our platform. We show everything, but also we have the support as an additional guide, as a handhold, as a just to make sure that, hey, I don't understand this, let me open a ticket, and the support team gets back to the team like in a span of 5 minutes, and their like all their problems or all their questions are answered properly. So this is the importance of support that we have as well. And once you check all these vendors like G2 Crowd, uh, like the Expert Insight, all the Capterra, and so on, our support is rated number one everywhere because of the knowledge, because of the human language that we provide. Like we don't uh, follow some scripts that we have in our tables, right? And everything is answered properly.
Thank you for letting people know. I wanted you to say it because when you were explaining it to me, it's the main problem is you get a solution and they kind of leave you, these companies. They just, here it is, and they don't really bother you. Here's where to get the knowledge base, and that's it. They forget about you. But it's the whole
Exactly.
hand holding that I was impressed by. So you said something about twice a week, and how long does that last?
That is for the enterprise
Okay.
customers that we deal with. Like the 2 weeks is our managed solutions that we provide to our enterprise customers that we handhold them and we show them all the way through the DMARC enforcement, P-reject. And yeah, like it can take up to like from 4 weeks to 12 weeks. Like it depends on their infrastructure, like the uh, and and then the complexity of their ecosystem. But one important factor that I always try to tell everyone that we are not only about configuring and making sure that we see all the green checks. We are also about educating our customers. Because like as we mentioned that all the organizations are pretty dynamic. We see new sending practices every like year. Like the last year we've had Google and Microsoft mandating DMARC, and we're gonna see Google and Microsoft man pushing the enforced policy P-reject. So you need to be always up to date with these changes. So like with the proper education, with the proper product, with the proper visibility, you are safe in like from every perspective.
Yeah, and we try to limit the reach of this program. There's some complex features in here, but for the simple DNS hoster, the web hoster, we're gonna take some of that complexity out, and we want to over instruct the end user to minimize that support cost. That's what this whole thing is based on early returns. That's what we're seeing. There's not a lot of questions, not a lot of support heavy interaction for the hoster that will, use up their times, eat up margins. We want to avoid that by over training, over documenting the user up front, instructing them in such a way that they get this, and we limit the complex features. We take those out of the plan. Now the hoster can choose whatever plan they want, whatever features they want, but best practices is to minimize some of the more deeper dives and complex of things that, email security analysts would want to know, but you're just your typical user that just needs to secure their sources and move on, doesn't need to know. So we want to keep it high level where they can read the instructions, self-service, limit that support interaction. So this becomes a profitable model for the hosting provider.
Yeah, education is actually very important. And from that, I don't think we have any more questions. I don't see any more. So I think that's it for today. I'd like to thank Mike Hagup, and everyone for joining. I know this is later on in the year, but thank you very much. And there will be a recording available on Web Hosting Talk, and you can contact EasyDMARC, the team here, sales at easydmarc.com. Really easy. Just say you were on the webinar or you saw the webinar and you have some questions.
Yeah, and they can go to easydmarc.com solutions, right under here, our wholesale program. Sign up for it. We'll put you on a free trial, give you all the instructions. We'll give you the instructions on, how to go to the, whether it's going to be a custom integration or a WHMCS. We already have that. For the people that just like the automated stuff, this is a very simple process. Build it right into your panel where your customers can provision. We'll help you create all the marketing collateral. We've got a big marketing portal that you would get access to. The bottom line is your customers have to have this no matter what. You already have the domain. You already have a captive audience. So this makes a lot of sense going side by side.
Perfect. And that's it for today. So thanks for everyone. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, bye.